Alright, so down here in the bottom left-hand position, we have XT, a series of L's, I's, and other things, playing as the Blue Terran here on Daybreak for XT Gaming, who are down 3-1 in the series, so they really need to pull it out. Now, BroLi was a Grandmaster apparently at one point. He is in the top right-hand corner, playing for XGs Gaming. He is the Red Zerg, and he is looking to cinch this deal and finish it out with a 4-1 against XC. So I have to see if he manages. It's an interesting map, as I was saying, for a Terran to pick versus a Zerg. I feel like it's not as bad as Zerg versus Protoss on this map, which is very difficult for the Protoss a lot of the time. It generally almost always goes to endgame on this map, so maybe we'll have a good, long, heavy macro game, but we'll see. We had one of those earlier on Whirlwind. That was pretty fun to watch. I don't know if you can hear a whining dog in the background, but it is totally fine. It's just whining. She's only in her cage for right now because she'll attack me if I let her out. She's very excitable. And loves StarCraft. Actually, I don't know about that, but she doesn't really understand English, so she's a dog. I assume she likes StarCraft. Everyone likes StarCraft, right? Zerglings are kind of like dogs, so she'd probably play Zerg. Anyway, we have an expansion going down here for BroLi. Nothing really too exciting going down, thus the discussion over what dogs would play. And we have the drone moving up into the main here of the Terran player's base. And he's going to scoot in, see that there's no gas, which is kind of weird right now in the current meta. So he's probably going to assume that's going to be a fast expand. Which, you know, is a pretty good assumption if you don't see any other gases going down. Because the only other option is a whole bunch of proxy gateways, which are not out on the field right now. And BroLi just moving out and taking his third. He says, well, you don't have gas, so you're not really doing anything too aggressive, so I'm just going to take my third base. And he takes that at 3 minutes. Boy, that's ridiculous. Okay, so XT hasn't really scouted anything right now, so it's pretty ambitious for him to be dropping this on the low ground. He literally has no idea what's going on. And he's like, I'll bet it on the low ground. It'll save me some time. It's really dangerous, but in this situation it's actually going to pay off for him because the Zerg player is picking up his third base. I mean, you can pretty much assume Zerg are going to try and go for 3 base when they scout this, so it's really like one of those metagame things, right? Like if you see this, you're like, okay, he has no gas, so he's going to go for an expansion. And then he's like, okay, he has no gas, so I'm going to go for my third expansion because he's going to expand. If either one of those players all of a sudden thinks, I'm just going to walk across the map and kill the other guy, the game can end pretty quickly, so we'll have to see. Like, for example, if the Zerg player just went a bunch of speedlings right now, it'd be pretty difficult for our Terran player to hold as he has... Okay, he's just picked up his gases, but factory just now starting, and speedlings could be here right now if he had picked up gas instead of that expansion. Speedlings would be finishing like in about like 15 or 20 seconds or so. So like he could be arriving right now with a whole bunch of speedlings. So it's always like one of those really weird situations you definitely want to scout because it makes it pretty dangerous in a lot of these situations. Alright, so heavy on the gas right now. So I'm wondering if he's going to be playing mech, actually. I'd like to see a mech game. Mech is really strong on Daybreak, actually. It's one of the better maps for Terran to play mech on. But, I don't know. We'll see. Alright, he's going to move up and start producing Hellions, which, you know, really isn't too much of a surprise. Probably going to see this, which means he's going to throw down probably a Spine at his third, maybe a second Queen, move it down there. He's going to need to either pick up... Okay, he's picking up Speed. It's about halfway done. I was going to say he needs Speed or Roaches to deal with that. He has Speed coming out. He's picked up a third or a second gas here at his expansion, throwing down a Roach Warren. And again, this is an interesting map for a Zerg player to pick. Terran player looks like he might, yeah, looks like he's probably just going to be going straight into Hellbat drops because he's picking up the armory before he even drops an engineering bay. So that's going to finish up. Then he's going to start being able to produce Hellbats, which makes me think he kind of wants to go mech, but it doesn't look like it. This is a really weird situation because you're investing a lot of gas into just Hellions, essentially, or just Hellbats, which, you know, is great. But at the same time, like, you really got to deal damage with this, or it's not going to be an effective situation for you at all because you've invested a lot in the armory and into the Hellbats. When you would normally be kind of building up your infrastructure for the bio, which is just starting right now. And that's kind of the disadvantage of this. So he has to do a lot of damage because he's very... It doesn't look like he's that far behind in macro. He's actually ahead in SCVs, but if the Hellions and Hellbats don't deal enough damage, you can very swiftly get behind. And actually, a lot of drones getting roasted there. And these Hellions are going to keep trying to chase them, but they're going to get picked off by these roaches and before they can get another kill. So that's pretty ambitious of those, actually. And kind of walling it in a little bit with these two evolution chambers. He sees that there's a bunch of roaches out on the field right now, which is a situation as a Terran player. You're like, okay, cool. He's either doing like a really big all-in, or he's just defending from these Hellions, or... those are mostly the two situations. But it looks like the Zerg player is going to be moving into actually Ling Bling. And here comes the first Hellbat drop. It hasn't used its boost. Okay, that's an interesting time to use the boost. Generally, you don't see the boost being used until after the drop goes down. Like you drop, and then you start frying them, and then they start to run away. And actually, a lot of drones about to get roasted right here. Gotta be really careful. Oof. A lot of damage being done. Actually, both of the Hellions getting picked up. Here comes the boost. This is what you want to do. You want to chase them down after they start running with that. And the Queen does pick off one of the Hellions. And the roaches are just going to kind of shepherd them. The Queen does go down there. You could have split off one roach to kind of finish that off. Queen goes down. And how many workers were actually killed there? Oof, lots of workers. 12. There were quite a few killed down here, though. I think that was like 4 or 5. But I think about 8 died up there. Lots of Hellions down on the field. So it looks like he's actually going to be going for... Man, his build is really confusing me. I thought he was going to be going for more of a Hellion Marauder timing, something like Innovation style, but he's getting combat shields, which is interesting. Generally, in situations like this, you're going to see lots of Marauders, so you're going to want to go concussive shells so the roaches can't get away from the Hellbats. They can't kite, which actually adds a ton of damage to their potential, really, when you slow them down like that. But this is going to be a pretty strong timing. There's only a medvac out on the field right now, but there are 2 more coming. So that's really going to help assist in this. The creep spread is quite good here out of BroLi, though. He's out in the middle of the map, almost all the way to the Zelnaga Watchtower. And then he's also expanded all the way down, protecting his third, giving it a lot of vision. The bonfire of the Queen right there. Now these SCVs are here because he feels like he's really far ahead in Econ, which, I mean, he's doing really well on Econ. This third is just going to get evacuated and abandoned, it looks like. There's not really much that he can do to hold on to this right now. So this is putting BroLi in a little bit of an interesting situation. A bunch of spine crawlers going down, but it's going to be pretty difficult for him to hold. These baneling connections are going to have to be extremely good and on the Marines or Hellbats. They actually deal a lot of damage to Hellbats because Hellbats are also light, so they actually deal a lot of damage to them. And here come the banelings. Look at all that damage being thrown down on those Hellbats. The banelings are actually getting trapped behind the Hellbats, though. And the banelings moving back, getting microed really well there. BroLi doing a good job with that, but here come the reinforcements. And there's just a few spines. Okay, here are the lings coming out. He might be able to hold. He's going to want to... He keeps pulling his lings away from the Hellbats and then focusing them with the roaches. Very nice micro there, actually, by BroLi. Trying to keep those alive as long as possible, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to hold on. Marauders are very good versus spine crawlers, as we just saw demonstrated here. And Hellbats are very strong versus lings, so there's not really much he's going to be able to do to hold on to this. He's going to try and go for a pretty big surround here. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to pick anything off. Good micro here out of our barcode Terran. It's always fun to say, barcode Terran. And he's actually just going to back up. I feel like he could have stayed committed to that and won, but he's just going to back down to these reinforcements at the bottom of the ramp and probably move back up after that. This Hellbat is very sad that he got left behind, but he is a Transformer with robot arms, so he's not really that sad because he's awesome. And the expansion looks like it's going to be redropped here. Little does he know there's more aggression coming out. And this might just be the point where he taps out. Because he's without any banelings, it's going to be extremely difficult to hold this. +1 range was being researched, which he already finished 1-1 on the banelings. So that's kind of an interesting choice. But anyway, it looks like the last breaths here of BroLi, as it's going to be moved into a 3-2, I think, here in this match. A lot of links coming down, not a lot of Hellbats left, but just enough. And it looks like BroLi is going to be forced to tap out here in just a second. Alright, there we go. Alright, so our Barcode Terran taking it, making the score 3-2. xGamers is still ahead by 1, but XT has pulled it back.